I'm going to take a walk with you through my church, the Forest Cathedral. This is where I think the preacher should be. But no, the preachers are these ancient trees. Look at these old grandfathers. They're many, many, many years old. One of my favorites is right here. Before we get too close, I'll show you how big he is. He's a beautiful old tree. Of course, he started out like one of these guys here. Hey, grandfather, I told you I'd come back. I told you I'd come back and see you. The rain dripping from you. Look at his roots. He's been here a long time. 500-600 years old at least for a hemlock. And many of his brothers and sisters around him. He's in a good spot. The wind's not going to bother him here. And he's got many friends. He's a hemlock, but there's other trees here. This is a great beech. The roots on the great beech. I always didn't like how people wrote their names on them until I came here, because it never heals. People write their initials, their girlfriend or their lover or whatever, and this one is a home for some little animal. The beech nut is, of course, a very valuable food source and staple. So take a little bit more of a walk. Forest Cathedral, of course, was owned by Mr. Cook, and he did a lot of logging. He did a lot of what I would consider bad things, but one good thing he did is he preserved this area that he felt was needed and loved to him, and this trail in particular, the Indian Trail and the Rhododendron Trail. The Indian Trail is the original Iroquois Trail. The Rhododendron Trail is, of course, where there's rhododendrons, I assume. That's what I'm on. But I'm always drawn to these stately old trees. See how some of these are? They're so old. They're so beautiful, and you can't help it. Feeling their presence. Your own presence of life. You're sharing the earth at time with these beings, and so many of them are lost because people, white man, came and cut all these down. And there was even my own ancestors, sadly, I'll admit. But this was preserved, and because it was preserved by the kindness and thought and compassion of men, then it exists today. We get into older sections of the forest. This Indian Trail, this original trail, I believe it was of the Iroquois. This was a trade route going way back to the 1600s, 1700s. Some of these trees were here, and people walked through here. So let's just be quiet for a moment and respect these grandfathers. Like this old beech, look at him. Oh, wonderful. He looks like he has a face on him. See the two eyes and the mouth. Maybe he does. These are all Amazing old trees. If they could talk, they could tell you the story of more than America. They would tell you the story of the tribes that came through here. The Shawnee, the Iroquois. They would tell you about the British and the French trappers. They would tell you about men like George Washington and Lieutenant Harrison. You name it. All those half chiefs. Imagine back then, though, there were a lot more of these trees. It's so dark to walk through. A man could find his soul simply by being. You see here, a great storm came through and knocked several of them down, so we're getting more light. It's really sad. Some of these were not real old. They were only about 200 years old, depending on pine. Pine will be thicker than hemlock. A very small hemlock can be very, very old. So when they get real thick like that, they are hundreds and hundreds of years old. This is a place that shows you the rings on them. When they fall, they really turn the earth up. This is a windfall. So we're coming up on this windfall where these great trees fell. You see in old photos, men would notch trees like these, and here's a grandfather that didn't fall. You see how far up he goes before you see the top of him. And we'll take the Longfellow Trill because it's named after one of my favorite poets. So it is. It's a beautiful thing up here if you can ever go and you want to get away, especially on a day like today when it's raining and you want to feel the presence of something greater than yourself. And bring your kids, get them away from the television and the video games and bring them out here and show them something that's really worth seeing and living through. Don't read about it in books, read about it in your heart. Let your heart feel it. Let your soul feel it. Take moments to be alive in the presence of what the universe has given you and walk reverently upon it. Take nothing. Leave nothing. These old trees. They'll leave you with this one. See him over there. See, I am so far away, but he goes up so high. Imagine if he could tell you what story he would tell you. He would tell you that he's been there a long time. All right.